Hi, this is my TR, and my name is Katherine Dana. And this week I decided to do my TR on my experience at the Bible Museum in Washington, D.C. I've never really been to a museum based on God and the whole structure and the historical texts and the biblical texts and the New and the Old Testament and the Hebrew, basically everything. I've never been to a museum. I've been to a museum for science and biology and anatomy and history and art, and I find museums fascinating because it's artifacts and real things and structures and paintings of so many cool things. But I'm a I guess I would call myself a pretty Catholic person, and it was huge. And I honestly thought that was my favorite field trip of this entire year. I enjoyed the experience. I really felt like, even though I didn't have enough time to see everything I wanted to, or everything in general, because I knew you told us and I knew I wouldn't be able to see it, I got to be a part of a joyful and wonderful experience with my class, and I was on the third floor and we went on a tour of the Hebrew text, and I thought it was really good, and I thought I learned a lot, and I was really taking the experience and embracing it. And I thought it was cool because it wasn't just a sit down presentation for 30 minutes. You had to change these rooms, and these had the colors and the lights. And a lot of people may get really bored because you're just sitting there. But I thought it was so different and cool, and it really stood out to me how they designed it and how the structure of how they presented that and how they had the colors in the different rooms, and how I mostly could really follow the story and the baseline of what happened, the historical part, and the years by years in the text. And I think it was cool. And then I went around it, and I saw different types of Bibles, and I saw different types of scripture and writing in Bibles, and I saw beautiful things. And what else? I'm trying to think. I didn't get to see all of it, but I just saw like the things the small things, and then you have to kind of picture it and not take it for granted, because it was an experience that not a lot of high schools and not a lot of students could go to as a class. And for us to go on this field trip as a class and really take in and represent the true meaning of God and what the biblical text really represents is just an honor for me. And I feel like it's it was a good trip, and I liked it, and I thought DC was beautiful and the museum was beautiful, and I feel like I I'm glad I went there, and I could tell people that I've been there and I learned a lot. And I wish there was more time so I could look at the other floors and look and see on the structure of it and the different things. But I mean, I would love to go back next year because I thought I really learned a lot from this, and I would love to do something like this again. And I just feel like theology is one of those classes that you really have to take for granted, and you have to understand it and understand the true meaning behind the words in the text and the storyline of it and if it makes sense to you or not, because not everyone is gonna believe in God and what it really means, but that's okay. But I believe in it, and I also believe that I should take the pieces of the structure, not the structure, the text, and really kind of put it in my own thinking, in my own mind of how I really understand this, because it is complicated. It's not just these little stories, it's these words and these stories and these sentences, and you really have to understand and appreciate the meaning of it and what God and has given us and the gifts he's given us and the gifts he has given me as a person to go to a school and go on a trip like this. And even though we didn't get to see a lot of stuff, I still got to see the true meaning of this structure and what God has given me for this opportunity. And what else? I feel like it was what another thing was, I went into these rooms and it was so cool because it was like in Jerusalem, or they had those little houses and it was like built in with all the stone and the rocks and how the structure of it and the little houses and the tables, and they had things like that. And it really was kind of like it was cool because it was like I was actually there, but not really. And then they had these tour guides just standing there, and they would tell you a story in a baseline of the carpenter. They had a carpenter, and they had someone at the table, and then they had beautiful paintings and a beautiful setup, and it was something that was just, it was gorgeous to look at and something so nice to really appreciate and understand. And I feel like I really do appreciate this. And I feel like a lot of kids were like, it was something. But I was like, no, I really appreciated this trip. And I appreciated things that God has given me throughout my years of being on earth. And I appreciate the small things like this because it helps me know and understand the true meaning of God and the gifts he has to give. And I feel like I did, even though I didn't have a lot of time, I did learn a lot from the trip. And I feel like it was very inspiring to me of all the things I saw. And the thing that probably my favorite part was all the types of texts of the Bible, because there's so many people of different languages and people of different cultures that can read and understand the true meaning of God and what he has given us to appreciate, understand throughout different languages that represent the meaning of the Bible and what God has offered us to bring throughout ourselves and to share this with other people. And that was my favorite part of the trip. And I would love to go back, and I thought it was beautiful, and they did a beautiful job with the whole structure of the building, and I would love to go back for theology next year. And that will close out my TR for this evening, and thank you for listening in, and thank you. Have a good night.